We'll do a review in Lekut Sichas in Chelek Chavdala. This is the second Sicha for the Parshas Voeschanan. It is a lengthy Sicha, has a lot of information, both in the simple meaning of the Rashi on the Pasuk of Atoreso Lodas, why Rashi learns, how Rashi learns, and why Rashi is different than the other Meforshim. Rashi learns that it says Horei so, you have been shown, versus Atara Iso, as the Lashonis and Psukim tells Rashi that there's something more than the previous Psukim, as the Rebbe will explain. It's also, the Rebbe will explain up in Chassidus, the different languages that Rashi uses, that the Hashem ripped the covers and Hashem opened up the covers. What's the difference? There's two levels of opening up to be able to see, and then to rip it up in order to see through. As the Rebbe will explain, like I said, it's a lengthy sicha. The opening of the sicha, the Rebbe spends the first ois on explaining that Rashi has Yeno Shel Torah, Rashi has the inner part of Torah, and therefore the second part of the Sicha, the Rebbe will explain the Inyanim Yeno Shel Torah. But let's go in order. The first Ois, the Rebbe tells us that in Rashi, while Rashi's main function is to teach us the Pshat, but yet Rashi has in it also the deeper meaning, because within the Pshat there are hidden deeper meanings. Aleph. Es is Yidua der Wort von Alten Rebbe. It's known, the expression of the Alter Rebbe, as Pirush Rashi of Chumash is Yeno Shel Torah, that Rashi's commentary on the Chumash is the wine of Torah. The commentary is wine of Torah. What does it mean, the wine of Torah? The wine is a reference to the esoteric, the secrets of the Torah. Was Yeno Shel Torah meant, what is the wine? It means Rosin Deiraisa. The Rashi's commentary is the secret of the Torah. This is Pnimius HaTorah. This is the inner of Torah. Now, Rashi is not a commentary of the secrets of Torah, because we know Rashi is giving us Shuta Shel Mikra. In Rashi, we find, or in this case, when it comes to Yeno Shel Torah, it's a main part of the Rashi as well. Mehot Shoin Fil Molgeret. We had already spoken many times. Wegen dem Klal was Rashi allein zog benegei sein Pirush, about the rule which Rashi by himself says as far as his commentary. Ani loibosi elo lipshutei. I only came to say the literal. As dos is nit kein stire derzu, was in Sforim von Gedoyle Yisrael wird angewiesen auf the Niflois, that even though we say that Rashi himself says, I am coming to the simple, so this doesn't contradict that we find many of the great commentators and great in Israel, they point to the wondrous things in Pirush Rashi al HaTorah, in Rashi's commentary, and they find in this Rashi on the Torah, in alle Chelkei HaTorah, in all portions of Torah. Rashi is not just showing according to the Gedolei Yisrael in the Pshat, but in all other portions of Torah. Sai in Chelek HaHalocha shebeTorah, both also in the section of laws of the Torah they take from Rashi. Sai in Remes Drush V'Sod, also in the hint, expounding in the secrets of Torah, they learn out from Rashi. How could that possibly be? Val Pirush Rashi is L'choil L'roish So even though Rashi doesn't do the Rashi. Pirush Rashi is l'chol l'roish. To begin with, what is Rashi? Pshutei shel mikra. It is actually the simple meaning of the pasuk. Not in the pshat, which is in this simple meaning, there are hidden, mysterious, wonderful things of all sections of the Torah. In the pshat, was is doch shel mikra. We're not saying pshat, pshuta shel mikra. Rashi is not just giving pshat; he's giving the pshat of the pasuk. The pasuk has more than just the pshat. So pshuta shel mikra unochmer. Das ist pshuta mikra unochmer von remes drush soid. It is more connected to the pasuk than the remes drush and soid. Is nor by in mikra yetsim b'dei pshuta. That's why it's only by pshat we say that it has to be, because the pasuk the pshat is more connected to the pasuk than the other ones, and that's why it's only with regards to pshat we say that the pshat is only the pasuk. Agod the medrash, that could be more than just the pasuk. So, but still zayin and do behalten, but there are hidden in yonim nifloim von alle chelkei Torah. There are hidden wondrous matters from all portions of the Torah. Aber von der Oben der Monter hat Gosche und euch von Losche von alten Rebben, from the above mentioned emphasize. Not sure what the Rebbe means here with the above mentioned emphasis, but nevertheless, also an euch von Losche von alten Rebben, Pirush Rashi of Chumash is Yeno Shel Torah. Rashi's commentary doesn't say that in Rashi you find Yeno Shel Torah. The Yeno Shel Torah, the inner part of Torah in Rashi, is more prevalent than, say, the other hidden parts in Rashi. The Loshen von Alten Rebbe, Pirush Rashi of Chumash is Yeno Shel Torah. Is mashma, it appears as benegeya Yeno Shel Torah, that when we talk about the wine of Torah, the secrets of Torah, is nit nor as a zayin and faran. Not only that there exist hidden hints in Rashi's words, in the rise of four matters that are secrets of the Torah, nor as Pirush Rashi is Yeno Shel Torah, but rather Rashi is the wine of Torah. As jeder Pirush von Rashi is loy bosi lipshutei. Every commentary of Rashi, it comes, as Rashi says, simple. Together with this is Yeno Shel Torah. So the Rebbe is trying to say how much Yeno Shel Torah is all a part of the Rashi. Even in the simplest level of Rashi, we also have Rashi is Yeno Shel Torah. And in any event, the Rebbe says, there are certain commentaries of Rashi and the Chumash that you can see openly as they are the wine of Torah. Und einer von the Pirushe Rashi is in unser Sedre from Pasuk. One of these Karashi's commentaries is in our Sedre on the Pasuk Autores al Das Goimer. So the Rebbe basically says Yeno Shel Torah is always an essential part. But whatever the case is, in our case, we have a Rashi and Autores al Das. Rashi, in this Rashi, as the Rebbe will explains, switches around the languages with regards to Elyonim, the seven heavens, and with regards to Tachtonim, he uses a different lashon, opened up. He uses the lashon of ripped through. All this in the Pnimius HaTorah makes such beautiful sense. So this is a revealed part of Rashi that Rashi explains as Yeno Shel Torah. But this was just the introduction to tell us how Yeno Shel Torah is actually an important part, which the Rebbe will address later on. But this is just the introduction. Right now, we're going to concentrate on the Rashi itself, what Rashi says over here and to explain in Pshat and the meaning of Rashi. Base. Rashi stellt sich auf ein Wort Hor-Eisa. Rashi places himself, quotes from the pasuk, you, Hor-Eisa, have shown yourself. Und sagt Kitargumoi ischa ziso. As the translation of the Targum, you have been shown. The Noch is Mamshich. Then Rashi seems to continue with a totally different, explaining a general idea after telling you the taich of Horeisa. When the Eibishter, when Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah, Posach Lohem Shiva Rikiyim, he opened up for them the 7 skies, 7 heavens. Ukeshem Shekora es ha'elyonim kach kora es ha'tachtonim. Just as he ripped the upper levels to reveal Hashem, ripped it. Kach kora es ha'tachtonim. First it says Hashem opened up for him the 7 heavens. Just as he ripped apart the Elyonim, Kach Koras Atachtoinim, likewise he ripped through the bottom, the lower ones. All of the 7 skies were ripped through, V'ro Shu Yechidi, and you saw that Hashem is alone. The Kach Nemar, and that's why it says, you have been shown so that you know. We'll see soon also the Rebbe will explain how Rashi is different in the Taich than all the other Mefarshim. But let's go step by step. So we need to understand, Rashi seems to tell you 2 separate. One a taich and then a subject, an idea. Why does Rashi bunch them up together? Darf man verstehen, was ist the Sheiches von dem Hemshech bepirush Rashi, the continuation of Rashi's commentary. Kshanos and HaKadosh Baruch Hu chulu pasachulu, that when Eibishter gave them, he opened up to Hascholas Pirushay, to the beginning of his commentary, Kitargumoi is chaziso. Rashi starts off the commentary as the Targums have been shown. Seemingly, these are 2 separate ideas. Das Cholas Hapirush is der Genoyer Obteich von Wort Har Eso. The beginning, Rashi just types the exact translation of Har Eso. Bist bewiesen geworden. You have been shown. Mashenki, der zweite Chelek von Pirush Rashi, as opposed to the second portion of Rashi's commentary, read wegen dem Klolus HaKosuf, that discusses the general verse. As Idnam Gizen, ki Havayehu Elikim Goimer, that Idn saw that Hashem is Elikim, etc. This is also evident the way the Rashi sums it up in the end. Rashi's touch is only in the beginning, he just brings down the word Hor Esa. And then Rashi says, that this has the subject that the Yidden have been shown. Why is this all in one Rashi? You see at the end of Rashi's commentary, Rashi says, that's why it says here that you have been shown so that we know. The L'cheir is other sim ibrik, it would seem it's extra. Muslims zogen as Rashi is the mitmati, so we have to say Rashi is coming to emphasize, and mit sein Pirush kommt der Masvir sein, that with his commentary he's coming to explain, nicht bloß dem Wort Hor Esa, he's not just coming to say Hor Esa, nor, lekach nemar ato Hor Esa ladas, that's why it says ato Hor Esa ladas, und dem klolus teichen hakosov. So he's more than just explaining. So Why is Rashi bunching it up together? Hat doch Rashi gedarf zu teilen sein Pirush in zwei Dibra Maschils. Rashi should have split up his commentary in two separate headings. Früher Dibra Maschil, the first opening on the word Horeisa should be Unsorgen kedargume is Chazisa, and he would say, explain that like the time of Chazisa. Und danach mighty sein Atoreisa Lodas, and then to explain the general theme over here. When the Eibishter gave the Torah, opened up. Why bunch them up together? The Rebbe will now explain that really Rashi is coming to basically tell us that you should learn the pasuk not like you are tempted to, that this follows the previous psukim. In the previous psukim, it talks about how Hashem treated the Yidden so specially, and he appeared to them and took them out from all the other nations. And then Atoharesa would seem to follow. Rashi is coming to tell you, no, the Atoharesa is something else. It's the Shivarikim. And we know it because it says Atoharesa. That's the point, the proof. Let's look inside. Gimel. We can say the explanation in it. In the Frier Dikum Pasuk state, in the previous Pasuk it's written, Oy Hanisa Elikim Lovoi Lokachas Legoy Goimer. Did Hashem ever try to take a nation, etc., with signs, with tests, with miracles, proofs, with war, with a strong arm, outstretched arm, all in the pasuk describing Hashem's special relationship to the Yidden to take them, make him his people. Everything as Hashem has done in front of your eyes. And the noch is the Torah mamshich. Then the Torah continues, that you have shown both men bepashtus gelernt. So one would learn simply in the flow of the pasuk. That is actually the way that many of the commentators explain Atoresa follows the previous. As the Atoresa Ladas, you have shown us to know is that this is a follow-up to the previous pasuk. This refers to the miracles and the wonders, was der Eibishter hat gemacht, that the Eibishter made the Mitzrayim le'enecha, in Mitzrayim, as the pasuk says, in front of your eyes. Ubelashon ha-seforno, the language of the seforno is, as called Eila Herecha Akilis Baruch, God has shown you all this, the blessed God. Lodas, this has been given to you for you to contemplate, Lodas, to reflect, so that you should reflect and know without any doubt that Hashem is Elikim, etc. And thus is Rashi shoylel b'pirusha. Rashi rejects this interpretation with his commentary. And Rashi says, "K'shenosan HaKadosh Baruch Hu Satoira Posach." When Hashem gave the Torah, opened up, tell you, no. There's a whole different thing that Hashem showed you. As the inyan von Ato Reiso Goimer, that this idea from Ato Reiso Goimer is nit bekesher to the Eisus Umayvsim. That is not in connection to the signs and the proofs Asher Osu Lochem Hashem Melekech b'Mitzrayim le'necha, that Hashem has done to you in Egypt. This is not the Egypt. It's not the Hemshech. Le'necha, before your eyes. Which is in the previous pasuk. And further not, Und da werden euch nicht gemeint in Niflois, was in Pasuk Shalachar said. The same thing we don't mean here, the wonders in the following Pasuk. In which it talks about Matan Torah. Hashem had you his voice, and on the earth he showed you the great fire. Not Ato Reis is an Inyan Chodesh. Ato Reis is something, a new subject, new idea. Was kommt der Zählung? It's coming to relate wegen a besonderen Ura B'shas Matan Torah, something separate that happened at the time of Matan Torah. Posach Lem Shiva Rekim Chulu, that he opened up the seventh heaven. How do we know this? That it's not continuation, doesn't reply to before or later? And the answer is because Areisa Kipshuta Kitargumai. When the Hechere Kipshuta shall Mikra to learn, and the proof, what forces us in the simple meaning of the pasuk to learn, as Ato Areisa Batzitzich, nicht zu dem, was steht früher, not to that which is stated before, und nicht zu dem, was steht später, not to that which is stated later, nor is an inya b'fnei atzmei, but rather is a matter by itself, is from the Loshen Hareisa Kidulakamon. The Rebbe will explain the Loshen Hareisa, the unusual language of Hareisa, not Ra'isa. Hareisa means you have been shown in the stranger's language. That Rashi forces Rashi to explain, as we see in the Rebbe, as the Rebbe goes on to explain. So in Ois Daled, the Rebbe brings the proof that here this is an independent, separate subject in the Pasuk Ato Reisa. Because the Torah uses the unusual language, Horeisa, you have been shown, instead of Reisa, you saw, you see. Daled. Ibal, their Pasuk nudes them Loshen Ato Reisa, since the Pasuk uses the language of Ato Reisa, do Am Yisrael, you. Who's you? The Jewish people. So you were shown, this was shown to you. Unit Ato Reisa, it doesn't say that you were shown, but it doesn't say you saw. Du hast gesehen, you saw. Das heißt, which means, as is mudgesh, there's it's emphasized as is given a pu'ula funat zweiten, that it was an act of someone else to beweisen, to show you. Is l'chayda nit galatik. So seemingly that's not so smooth to understand. Farvos is mudgesh ato. Why is the emphasis you, that mekabel ha'pu'ula, the one who receives the impact, only der Oisa ha'pu'ula, and not the one who's doing it? As it gedab stein, der Eibishter hat dir bewiesen, the Hashem showed you. Not you have been shown, but it should say Hashem showed you. Und wie steht früher, actually it says so before, Asher osa lochem havaya, that Hashem has done for you. Und euch später, and also later on, he made you hear his voice, goimer, herachas ishoy goimer, he showed you his fire, etc. So why do we say here, Hore'ei so, you as have been shown, instead of saying Hashem showed you? Therefore is Rashi Machriach. So that from this Rashi proves, as in the Pasuk Retzich wegen an ander beweisen, that in this Pasuk it's talking about a different kind of that you were shown. Who as is mudgesh, in which there's an emphasis, as is given a Pa'ula von Weisen. Yes, there was a impact to show, und zusammen der mit, but notwithstanding that is to show is just nit given bederach v'nap ula mamish. It wasn't in an actual way, as we say with the v'haracha, to show you, nor ba'oifon, it was in a way as the chidush is beikir mitzad ato. The novelty is you have been shown. It's not so much the one showing it, but the one who is receiving it. You've seen the makabla pula. Der Bavaiser hat nor mevatel given azach. What the one who showed you, what his part was that he negated and took away something that obscures. He took that away. So he is not that he did the act of showing, but removing what's blocking so you can see. The Pu'ula Bashteit in Bitlamania, his act consists of negating that which holds back. Und darüber lernt Rashi, therefore Rashi learns that do retzich nicht wegen the Nisim v'neflois was der Eberster hat bewiesen. We're not discussing here the miracles and the wonders which Hashem has shown the Yidden. But this is b'derech Pu'ula kipshuta. That is in a way of an act simply. Oiv giton azach, accomplish something. No do retzich. We're not talking about showing doing an act. No, the retzich wegen dem gilui. We're talking about a revelation from Posach lehem shivarikim b'chulu. He opened up the seven skies. That is the act. That Eberster hat nicht getan apula from beweisen. He did not do an act of showing. Sich zu ihn. He didn't do something to show himself. Hat nur herabgenommen dem Verstell. What he did was he removed that which blocks from the shivarikim, the seven rikim. And automatically they saw that he is one. So you've been shown, it's not through a direct act, but just by removing what's preventing the showing, and that's the way you've seen. And that is indicated in the Lashon Horei, so you have been shown. I say. So now, the way the Rebbe learned, so it means the Ato Horeiso is not so lodas ki Hashem. That's the way the Meforshim learned. The Rebbe brought down before from the Seforno. But Rashi says Ato Horeiso, that you've seen that Hashem hu Elikim. That is part that you saw, because you saw that itself. It's not that you've seen the miracles or what says before, and then you can reflect on that Hashem Elikim, but you actually saw Hashem Elikim because the obstacle, the block of the covers of the Rikim were broken through, were opened up. Let's look inside. Apizekub is based on this, it turns out, as is Faran Achiluk Ikri in the Pirush for Ato Horeisa. There is a major difference what Ato Horeisa means between the Pirush and Meforshim Anal, between the commentary of the Meforshim and Pirush Rashi and Rashi. As Ato Horeisa batzitzich zu den Nisim fu Yitzias Mitzrayim. If we learn that Ato Horeisa is referencing the miracles of the exodus of Egypt, as the Meforshim learn. It turns out, as zu Eden seine bewiesen geworden, the Nisim. So what were they shown? The miracles. Und nicht as Horeis as Avayu Elikim Gomer. It's not that you saw that Hashem is Elikim. You saw the miracle. But from the miracles you can learn. Nor von the Nisim, haben Yidden verstanden, from the miracles, the Yidden understood, und gewusst, and they knew, Lodas, they knew, as Avayu Elikim, that Hashem is Elikim. L'shoyin HaSefer now, using the language of the Sefer mentioned before, Kedei Shetizbeinen V'teinachulu, so that you should reflect and you will realize and you'll know Ki Hashem Elikim, Hashem is Elikim. Mashenkin Loit Pirush, Loit Rashi's Pirush, as opposed to, according to Rashi's commentary, is to Eden Bavizen geworden das Gufa. What was shown to Eden is this itself as Hashem Elikim. They saw that Hashem is Elikim. But shown Rashi, Ra'u Shehu Yechidi. They saw that he's only Hashem Elikim. There's just one. So the Eibishter. Und der Fahr is Rashi Messiah. Lekach nemar ato reisel das. That's why Rashi concludes. That's why the pasuk says ato reisel das. The mit is Rashi oisen. What Rashi wants us with this, by telling us lekach nemar ato reisel das, nit lois to madgish sein as lekach, not just to emphasize for this, that for this happening, for that particular happening, nemar ato reisel das, will say ato reisel das. And not for the miracles which are related in the verse that's before it. So the word lekach is telling us for this shivarikim, for that part, but besides that, but in addition also to emphasize as loit dem pirush Beitzich der Pirush euch von der Reisel Das, to tell us that also Reisel Das, this Pirush takes on a different meaning. As does eine nicht zwei besondere Unionen. It's not two separate. Horeisa the miracles, Lodas to know Hashem Elikim. So Rashi tells us no. Horeisa not two separate matters. Horeisa the Nisim. Und durch dem wirst du kommen. And through that you will come to reach Lodas Kashem Elikim, to know the Shem Elikim. Now this is ein Zach, but this is really truly one matter. That Lodas Ki Avaye Hu Elikim, the knowing that Hashem Elikim is in an oifun fun Horeiso. Horeiso, that Hashem has shown you, so that you know that Hashem Elikim, not a reflection, not to learn from it, but you've seen that Hashem Elikim. Roshu Yechidi. They see that Hashem is alone. That's one reason why Rashi doesn't learn that it refers to the before, the Nisim and Mitzrayim, or what's later on, Isha Gedolah, Matan Torah. Rashi learns the idea of Haraisa, where there was an act, but not a full act. You have been shown by the Eibishter removing the obstacle, Posach and Korah, to see Hashem Elikim. And yet the Rebbe says there's another reason that Rashi learns that it means this separate miracle, because the miracles that took place does not yet prove the Ein Oid Milvadei. Because while there's no questioning the great miracles that took place, but that doesn't necessarily negate that there's not other forces. That, how do we know Ein Oid Milvadei? And that's why Rashi uses the Lashon Yechidi to tell us another reason there needs to be such a miracle or such a vision in which you see that Hashem is Elikim. But noch hatam favos Rashi will not learn as Ator is about sitzich to the Nisim b'Mitzrayim. That Ator is referencing the miracles of Egypt, other to Minashamayim Ishmeichas Koiloi, that follow, that from the heavens he let you hear his voice. Is Rashi Melames B'Lashoinei? Rashi hints to it in his language. V'rou Shahu Yechidi. They saw that Hashem is Yechidi. What is the uptight for Neined Movadi? That is the translation. There's nobody besides him, meaning that he's alone, Yechidi. And that's not necessarily evident from what took place in Mitzrayim. The Nisim Shevim Mitzrayim haben Bavizim, the miracles in Egypt, they proved Azani Havaya, That it's just Hashem and nobody else. As it says many times, as it relates to the Egyptian, it says, so they knew that it is Hashem. The Eibishter is in control. And the Egyptians, they had their gods, but they can see that the only one is Hashem. Aber von deswegen ist von sehen nicht token hechrich, but yet there is no proof, no absolute proof, as in Milvadi, that there's nobody besides Hashem. Weil es can sein, because it's still possible, as der Oberster is take größer und starker von allem, and that Hashem is greater and stronger from everyone. Und der Fahr kann keiner nicht abhalten, and therefore nobody can stop. Und kein Sach kann im Chas v'sholem nicht sterben, and nothing could disturb in the Nisim, in the miracles. So Hashem can do as he wishes. He's mightier. He's stronger than everyone. Nobody can stop him. He can take out of people from other people, can take the people out of Egypt. But she's ober von dem nicht token hechrich. But there's no, we don't have evidence, no absolute evidence. As in token under Metzias chas v'sholem mit hakoyach v'yichelis. God forbid, maybe there is some other existence that has powers, that has abilities. Although with a smaller power, Hashem, but maybe there is some other powers around. But it's specifically by Matan Torah. When Posach Lahem Shivarikim Chulu, he opened up the seven heavens, and everybody saw that he is alone. Nit no rasis nitoke mitzias koyach. Not only that there is no existence, any power, there's no force that can compare himself to him, to Hashem, God forbid. But there is at all, there's no other existence besides Hashem. This is only. There's nobody else in the upper and the lower. There's nobody besides Hashem. That is why Rashi has to come on and say that it was this miracle that he saw that there's nobody there, because from the other miracles it would not be proved that that there's nothing else. We may know that Hashem is stronger, but we wouldn't know that there's no other forces at all. And that we know because he opened up the seven heavens and he showed them that there's nothing else besides Hashem. And now in Ois Zayin, the Rebbe is going to explain the specific language in the Rashi that he starts with the words Posach, he opened up, and then he goes on to say that he tore apart. Zayin. We need to understand the change of language in Rashi's commentary. He begins with Posach Lohem Shiva Rikim. He opened up the seven skies. And then immediately he continues. Just as he ripped apart the upper ones, he also ripped up the bottom ones. But when you can zogun, so we could have said, as when Yonim, Shiva Rikim, when we talk about the Yonim, the seven skies, past the Loshen Pasach, but there's a fitting language he opened up. Al derech, similar to we find Niftucha Shamayim ve'Edam Maris Alikim. The skies opened up, and I saw godly visions. Aber nitzu tachtoinim, but not to the lowers. Aber wie gesagt, Frank Rashi on, so that would have been, if Rashi would have used Legabe de El Yonim, the Shiva Rekiim, he would have used the Loshen just Niftucha. But Rashi immediately, even by Del Yonim, says Nikro, but wie gesagt, fängt Rashi on with Pasach Lahem, Shivari Kayim. He opened up for them the seven skies. Und he's Mamshich, and he continues. Ukeshem Shekore Sol Yonim, just like he ripped. He just said opened up, and then he says he ripped Del Yonim. If the change of language in Rashi is because there's a difference between the upper and the bottom, the upper one you say posach and the bottom one you say ripped. Just as he opened up the upper, he also ripped the bottom. For them, Shina Haloshin in Rashi, Rashi changed it as it is to the uppers itself, is mashma. It appears as in Elyonim that in the uppers there were two effects, Sai Posach and Sai Korah. He opened and he ripped. But in the lower one, there was just one act of Korah, just ripping. Not in them zetman them yeno shel Torah and Pirush Rashi will come on. But here we see the inner part, the wine of Torah and the Pirush Rashi, as the Rebbe will explain. Ches. The Loshen Posach, when you say opened up, a certain matter was opened, is an inyan shel tikun. That is a matter of correction. Haisofas shleimus. This adds wholesomeness. Chidush shleimus, a novelty of wholesomeness. Opening up is addition. It's accomplishment of some wholesomeness. Aber korah, when we say ripped, as mendarf zeraisen, that you need to rip main an inyan fun bittel dover. That means that you need to negate it. Was der far, for that reason, is kriyas halavush. If you rip a garment, if you rip the garment, it's mevatelim levush. It negates and takes away. There's no longer a garment. If you rip it, ripping means you're destroying. Other zayin chashivus, or its importance. Kriyas yamsuf, when we say ripping the sea, is mevatel inyan hayam lechasis. That negates the water. What does the yam do? It covers. Here we rip the cover. Buan the kulan, and the father of all the languages, halosh narogel b'kama mekoimis. The common language used in many places is kriyas gezar din, to rip up the decree of judgment. What's the difference between saying opening up and ripping apart in the service of man? The chilik zwischen the zwei inyonim in avodas adam in the service of man. In avodas adam ba'olam, in the service of man in the world, seine bechlolus, seine faram bechlolus zwei ifan. There's two ways in the service of man. And eifun vospoder the avodah from Posach. One of them requires the service opening up. And that zweiter eifun, the second way, vospoder the avodah from Korah, which requires the service of ripping. And thus is der chiluk zwischen avodas habirurim and avodas hanisyonis. There's a service of sorting things out, and then there's a service of tests that we are being challenged with tests. The avodah enclosed in yonei ha'ilam, the service in the general worldly matters, is avodas habirurim, is the avodah to sort out. When men hotzuton with the dvarim gashmi, when you have dealings with the physical matters in a way of preoccupation, and you need to open up a Pesach, an opening, with Megala Zayin Zeir Tachlis, in order to reveal their goal. As Nivru L'Shamish es Koinem, that they were created to serve Hashem. And also to reveal the godly spark that is within them, which is the true existence, the true entity of everything of the world. So you have to open up to reach in to reveal the goal and the godly spark that's in them. That would be the normal avodas habirurim. That would be the idea of opening. But then when you come to a test, over there you got to rip it apart. But there is at times God, your God is testing you. Going there. As kumt an inyan shel nisoyin. When it comes to a matter of a test, is master the idea of a test is that it blocks, it obscures godliness, so you shouldn't be able to see. That godly vitality that is in the test is nofal lemato b'yoser, that has fallen even lower. These is behelam behester legabe, to the extent that he's entirely hidden and obscure. Unkidei der nitzutz elekis on this galavet, in order for that godly spark to be revealed, is nit genug davida from Pesach, is not sufficient the service of opening up. Nor as dav sein kora, you need to rip, zerreißen, mevatel sein dem hester, the hell of a hester, to rip up and negate that block and obscurity. And the Rebbe is going to apply this not just in the world, that we have some things in the world which is avodas habirurim, and some things which are a test, but within the person himself, we also have these two levels. The chiluk, the difference in the way of the service is nit nor legabe. It's not just with regards to the item in the world, the object, nor ubeiker, but mainly in the Raveda Sa'odam Gavra Ba'atzmai, in the service of the person by himself. Raveda Sa'odam Ba'atzmai, the service by the person by himself, by Raveda Sa'z Birudim, is Ba'ifum from Pasach. When it comes to Birudim, it's in a way that he opens up. At Efon Zayne Koiches, he opens his powers, Moichen and Midas, his intellect and his emotions. Honor even that his bonus to begin with the reflection b'chulu b'tfila, and the davening was poiled them birur in the nefesh habahamis, which impacts the sorting out of the animal soul. And then to sort out the part that the person needs to sort out in the world, b'chol inyone ha'olam, in all worldly matters. By having the intention for the sake of heaven, in eating, and all the other human needs. That's opens up. He opens up his powers, his moichan and midas, in order to be able to sort out his own nefesh habamis and his power in the world. But the oifon ha'avoda ba'atzmei avodas hanisyonis, but what is the type of service when it comes to challenges, when it comes to tests, is kora. Over there you have to rip ertut heipech tivei v'regilusa. He does opposite of his nature and what he's been accustomed to. Avoda b'mesidas nefesh alamaylo memedida v'agbola, serving with self-sacrifice, which is beyond measure and limitation. But in their avodah ba'ifim kazeh is when you serve in such a way, is kishem shekora esol yonim kach kora satachtonim. Just as you rip the uppers, you rip the bottom. Punkt v'erechen sich nit. Just as you don't calculate, doesn't matter. Unis mevatel de halomes v'hagbolis umisochim fun zayne koiches elyonim. Those blocks, limitations, and coverings from his upper parts, which is tainug v'rotzen seichel umidis, the person's power for the light, his will, his intellect and emotion. He also negates the curtains of the lower powers that he has. The Hagbolos Haguf and Nefesh Abam is the limitation of the body and the animal's soul. Don't allow that block to continue, but you just like you don't allow to block your upper powers, which is your level of delight, will, intellect, and emotion. You don't allow for the lower powers, for the body and the nefesh hamis to interfere. When a yid stands strong and he withstand the test, the challenge, and he strengthens himself against all preventing items. Then he rips all those covers that block and obscure Hashem, the light and the vitality of Hashem. So it turns out that once he rips through these blocks, that the light and the energy of Hashem comes from obscurity to revelation. So this is an avodah. The Rebbe explained what the opening means. Opening means that you are fixing and you're making it in a wholesome way. Ripping means that you are negating the metzias. So when we talk about birurim, over there is sufficient to open up. But when we talk about nisyonis, over there we have to rip and go against both in the world to find the godliness. You have to rip. It's not, you can't just open it. And also in yourself, you have to push yourself and not allow for the lower powers, for the goof, the nefesh habam is to obscure. And that's when you break through and you bring out the light in the open when you withstand that challenge. The Rebbe says, Al derech titzvei oistest, titzvei yonim in avoda is bechlolus der chiluk v'yalakus vert disgale durch elyonim oder durch tachtonim. Similar to these two ways of service, birurim and nisyonis, is similarly the difference how godliness is revealed through the upper or through the lower. The upper worlds reveal godliness from their existence itself, away from Shel Pasach. That's in the way of opening up. So you open up and then you realize. Al-derech v'dos is in Mitzias Hashemayim Kipshutu. And say we talk about Elyonim, so let's talk about the existence of the Elyonim of the heavens, literally the heavens, the sky. State, it says Hashemayim misaprin kvoid kel umasi yodov magid rakia, that the heavens tell us the glory of Kel, of Hashem, and the act of his hands is related by the sky. As the Shamayim Gufa, der Zelun, seine Megale Kvoid Kel, that the Shamayim itself relate and they reveal the glory of Hashem. The Rakia is Magid, and also the sky tells us the Maisi Dodov Shalakadov Baruch. It tells us what Hashem did. So really, this is with all Elyonim, just like literally by the Shamayim. The Metzias from Yeder Olam The existence of every world at every level is Megala Nochan Inyan in the Lakus. It reveals another thing in godliness. Was dos als is nichlal in dem Inyan ha'oir. This is all included in the idea of oir of light. Kishem v'demetzias ha'oir gufa is megali yanamor. Just the fact that there is the existence of the light, it tells us that there is a luminary, because otherwise there would be no light. So light tells us about the existence of the moir, of the luminary. Derech zeh is in olam esusfiras lamata lamaila. Similarly, is the worlds, and the spheres above is mitziusam gufa megala elikus. So their existence itself reveals godliness. As opposed to the lower ones, especially the entity of feeling yourself as a separate entity, is nit nor. It's not only was dosis nit megala lakus, that it does not reveal godliness, nor adrab. On the contrary, in Yono from their Mitzias Sayesh is, what is the function of the entity with Zayesh is was sein Mocker Vertin im Nirgesh, that his source is not felt in him. You don't feel the source. Bisman made to the extent that you think as Mitzius that his existence is on his own. When there is nit that he doesn't come, he's not an effect from some sort of cause that comes before him, but he's like a mitzias by himself. Kumt ois, so it turns out as mitzias from tachtonim, that the mitzias, the lower one, mitzias hayesh zokt, what it really is telling you as is faran, that he exists. The Elyonim tell you godliness, and Tachtoinim tell you that they exist. It's Metzias Hayesh. Although the fact that you have an entity, this forces us to tell that there is a creator. Which has to be existent. His existence is from himself. He does not come from any cause that preceded him. That's why he's just alone, because to create something from nothing. From nothing and zero, totally zero, without any cause or reason other before this yesh, the Eberster can just create something without any. As explained in the Holy Letters. Is dos docha inyan was called. So that idea to know that because there is a nivra, there has to be a boida. When there is a yesh, there has to be a boida. Is dos an inyan was called b'derech limud. So that's something that comes because you're studying, and it's forced out by the human intellect. Nit as the Metzias Hayesh does Megala. It's not that the entity tells us, we know that it has to be that way. Adrabe. On the contrary, when you look at an entity, there you see an entity by itself. And therefore, is there Gilui Elokus in Tachtonim? How do you reveal godliness in the lower levels? That comes by breaking and negating their mitzias. Korah. On the river is Dr. Rashi dem Loshen. That's what Rashi is like this. Posach nor benegeya del yonim. Posach is only as it relates to the upper Zayin Rikiva. Und nicht benegate Tachtonim, but not with regards to the lowers. Weil der Inyan von Tachtonim, because the idea of Tachtonim is not open. Is doch bein Hester, Oide Yisbarach, B'choshech Kofel Mechupel, quoting from the Tanya that it's in the matter blocked of blessed light. It's a darkness which is doubled and quadrupled. The world is full with the klippas on the other side. They are actually against Hashem, saying it's me, and anything besides me is extra, is not there. So what happens in Tachtonim? You see a Metzias. So Rashi can only say Posach when it talks about the Elyonim, because by the Tachtonim you don't see godliness. Only by breaking when you're trying to with Tachtonim, it's not opening to reveal the good and the holiness that is hidden there, but rather to break, to break and negate their importance, their mitzias canal, as mentioned before. In Tachtonim, we have no choice. We have to rip. The Elyonim, we open. But yet, Rashi says, not just Pasach, but also rip with regards to the Elyonim. Yud. Aval Pekain Zokt Rashi Benegei the Elyonim. In relationship to the Elyonim, nit nor dem Loshon Pasach, nor euch dem Loshon Korah, not just opened up, but also the Loshon ripped. But legabe de his galus and lekis was his given, because relative to the godly revelation that took place, when Hashem gave the Torah, but gedarf zayin der Korah, there needed to be ripping, nit nor fun tachtoinim, nor euch fun elyonim, also from the uppers needed to be ripped as well, relative to that great level that was revealed on Matan Torah. The Biur Bazeh, explaining this, as is Yedua, der Pirush von Alten Rebbe. It's known the interpretation of the Alter Rebbe, if Ato Reisolodas. Alter Rebbe translated it as follows: Ato, du Atzmus Ein Sof Baruch, you the essence, the infinite, blessed be He. Or Eiso, you Hostich Bavisen, you showed yourself, revealed yourself. Lodas, as Mizol dich wissen, so that we should know you. So essence revealed himself so that we can know him. Yeshloimar can say as those was Rashi is medayik, that the Rashi specifically writes that Re'ushu Yechidi, they saw Re'ushu Yechudi, they saw that he's alone. Is that der mit merames from Pirush Anal from Alten Rebbe. That way he hints on the above interpretation of the Alter Rebbe. Val Geder Bechinas Yochid, because the definition and the level of Yochid, welche is Hecher Legamri from Echad, which is much higher than Echad. Was says Ken Zain, because Echad isn't yet the highest level. We're talking about Yechidi, Roshu Yechidi. Is Hecher Legamri for that Yechid is much higher than Echad. It says Ken Zain Yasheniloi. When you talk about Echad, there could be something after it. Well, Achas Kama v'Kama from the Rishon, Belcher is Machriach Sheni. The word Rishon means that there has to be a second one. Echad, possible that there is Sheni. If it says Rishon means the first, there needs to be a second. And here we're saying Yochid is verbunden mit Atzmus Eid in Sof Baruch Hu, because this is tied to the essence in Sof Baruch Hu. Rashi uses the Loshen Yechidi of the Alter Rebbe, says Ato Atzmus Emus Bavisen. But this is Euch der Biur in the Protim Anal Benegei der Eifen Ha'is Galus. This also explains the details how the revelation comes about. Aleph, as kumt be'ofen fun hore Esau, comes in a way you've been shown, me'elav me'melav. It's on its own, like by itself, but I mean, atzmus passed it together from Pa'ula, because the essence of Hashem is not fitting an act to show. Gilu atzmus is b'derech hameila. Revelation of Atzmus is automatic by itself. Beis, the lodas, this knowledge is an anoifim fun hore Esau. You have been shown the chushis, a vivid seeing, actual seeing, that oifen hagilui from Atzmus, because how is Atzmus revealed? You can't understand Atzmus, you can see. Is in the Riyah Davke Nit in Asoga. It's only seeing it, not in Asoga. And that's the way it comes down. The Bald as B'matan Torah is given is Galus HaAtzmus. And since by Matan Torah was revelation of Atzmus, Vert, that's why Kishem Shekores Al-Yonim, Kachkores Atachtoinim, just as he tore the upper ones in order to have the Hare Esa, that Gilui Chushis, that Kishem Shekores El Yonim, Kachkores Atachtoinim, just as he ripped up the upper ones, so he ripped up the lower ones as Kidel Kamon, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. So now in Ois Yud Aleph, the Rebbe is going to continue to explain the major difference between the way Rashi learns Yechidei, and it's also Pnimius HaTorah, the Yenushel Torah, that Roshu Yechidei, the Einoid Mulvadei, and the way the Rambam teaches Einoid Mulvadei. The Rambam teaches Einoid Mulvadei that there is no truth, that nobody as truthful as the truth of Hashem. But the Rashi teaches that there's no other existence besides Hashem. Let's look inside. Yud Aleph. And the Rebbe will explain what it means, Kishem Shekora Esohel Yonim, Kakora Satachtoinim, because of the Gilui of Atzmus at the time of Matan Torah. Yud Aleph, the Bir. The Rambam Hilchos Yisoida HaTorah, the Rambam in the laws, we said that bring them sima posik from ato reisoladas, the end of the posik, in which it says in eid mulvadi. He brings down the posik behemshech to the halachas was retzich wegen der mitzvahs hayidi mitzisakel, to follow up the laws in which it discusses the mitzvah of knowing the existence of Hashem. And this is what the Rambam writes. Hu shanovi omer v'Hashem elikim emes hu levadei ha'emes. The Navi says Hashem elikim is emes, which means that He alone is emes. Only Hashem is true. Ve'ein la'achar emes kamitosi. There is no other truth as the truth of Hashem. Hu shatoyra omeres. That's what is written in the Torah. Ein oid milvadei. What does it mean? Ein oid milvadei. Koloimar ein shomotzi emes milvadei kimoyse. There is no true existent as Hashem. Hashem besides Hashem. Since all the creations need to come on to their existence for Hashem, they're not a true existence, and there's nothing as true existent like Hashem. There's no alone, because Hashem is the true existence, not dependent and not created from any other existence. Was that Pirush in Ein Oid Milvadei? This meaning of Ein Oid Milvadei, as the Rambam brings down, is an under Teichen Legamre Viloit Pirush Rashi, is a different totally than the Rashi says B'Pnimis Inyonim, as we've been explaining in the Yenushel Torah, in the inner matter of things, in the union of Vero, what they saw. Yochid, Yechideh. With the Rambam is the Pirush von Ein Oid Milvadei. According to the Rambam, the meaning of Ein Oid Milvadei, as if to say there is something in existence besides Hashem. Not ein shomotsu emes milvadi kimoisi. There's no true thing that exists that is found besides Hashem, like Hashem's truth. This is verstandig, and it's understood. Why the Rambam has to say that? Because all of the mitzvahs and everything that we do if there's no existence. How do we do everything? How does it count? This is verstandig dem hechrich zum Pirush Rambam. We understand why we it's forced for us. We have to explain as the Rambam because explained in many places that learn this is from pastures if we should learn and we should explain as it seems in the simple language of the pasuk, there's nothing else besides Hashem, literally. So it turns out that at all there doesn't exist, there's no world existing. That's not possible to say. Demult is doch nitoke metzias val kalchas kama v'kama kin chashivas chaz v'sholem in asis mitzvahs. Then there would be no existence and no importance, God forbid, in doing mitzvahs, because there is mitzvah you do with worldly matters, and if there's no worldly matters, there's nothing there. You can't do any mitzvahs, and there's really nothing there. What is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is as menemta davar shabaylam. You take a matter, an item of the world, umiz dermit mekayim a mitzvah, and then you fulfill a mitzvah with it. And you draw down kedusha into that item of the world through the mitzvah. So the Rambam has a problem. He can't say nothing exists, because there has to be an existence in order to do a mitzvah, in order to bring down godliness into the physical matters of the mitzvah. The Rebbe zok the Rambam kloimer. That's what Rambam has to explain, to say. As that pirush in Einay Milvadi is that what is the meaning, his explanation. Einay Milvadi kloimer, it means to say is nit as is nitoke mitzias klal Milvadi. We're not trying to say that there is no existence at all besides Hashem. Nor ein shom motzi emes milvadi kemoise. What it means to say is there's no truthful existence besides Hashem as the truth of Hashem. But we're not saying that there's no existence. Das heißt, which means the world is ametzias. The world is an entity. Aber nit kemetzias amitis. It's not a true entity. Bafilu nit kemoise. It's not even like him. It's not at all. But there is still an entity. There's still mitzias. That is according to the Rambam, but according to the Pirush HaPnimi, we're learning in the Rashi, the initial Torah, Leidem Pirush Pnimis HaPirush and Rashi, the inner Pirush and Rashi, V'rou shu Yechidi, they saw he was a Yochid, not even Echod and not even Rishon, but Yechidi. Kumteis the Pirush in Eined Milvadi. What is the meaning of Eined Milvadi? As nit nor as developed nit kemetzias amiti is not only the world is not a true existence, as the Rambam said, but who is Baruch is the Ein und Einzige Metzias B'chlal, but there's only one thing that exists. Says Nitok Kein Ander Metzias Achutz Im. There's nothing else besides him. Hu Yechidi, he's alone. But we have the question that we had on the Rambam. What forces the Rambam? How do we do mitzvahs? Vishtim der Pirush, der Mit was the Inyan von Torah mitzvahs. How does this commentary in the interpretation of Eined Milvadi fit with the whole concept of Torah mitzvahs is verbunden mit Metzias Ha'olam? That's associated. There has to be a world there to do mitzvahs with. Kiniska Leil, if there's nothing there, how are you going to do mitzvahs? And how do you bring down Kedusha? Shloimar, the Bir Bazat, so we can say the explanation that Inyan von Hu Yechidi kum etzad b'chinas Yochid. The idea that he is Yechidi, that is the level in which Hashem is Yochid. But thus is the his galus from Atzmus Ein Sof Baruch Hu. That is when there is a revelation of the essence of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Kinal from Pirush Admur Hazokim, as the Alter Rebbe explains. So when Ato Horeiso, the Alter Rebbe said, when the Atzmus is revealed, then it's Takei Neid Mavadi. On the Gabe Atzmus Ein Sof Baruch Hu, relative to Atzmus Ein Sof, is Ein Shom Mitzias Klal. There's no existence over there. So in the level of the world, yes, there's a Metzias, but in the level of Ator Reis Ladas is Eined Mubad. And the Rebbe is going to explain, depending on what we're talking about, halachically speaking, or we're talking about what took place in Matan Torah. Und das ist der Chelek zwischen Pirush HaRambam und Pirush Rashi. This is the difference between the Rambam's commentary and Rashi's commentary. The Rambam read wegen dem Inyan von ein Eid Milvadei. The Rambam discusses what it means. Ein Eid Milvadei, wie das ist an Inyan in Halacha, Negel Halacha, as it's a matter of Halacha, and as it's associated, it connects to Halacha. Und wie bald, as in Halacha is Negei Metzias Oilam, in Halacha it is important, the existence of the world, because mit welchem is mekayim the halachas haTorah, with which you fulfill the laws of the Torah. The world is used in order to fulfill the laws of the Torah. Macht oif halacha lemafreya metzias olam. So therefore, halacha of Torah makes up that there is an existence of world, so that when you're going to do the mitzvah, there's going to be an existence. The Rebbe types the Rambam. So the Rambam teaches, there is no real existence besides Hashem, to be truthful as Hashem, but there is an existence. This is talking about the level in godliness, as if sort of he lowered himself into the level of being the first one, Motzui, that there is Hashem's Metzias, so to speak, Motzui Rishon. So in order for him to bring into existence all other things that came about, the Kolam Mitzoyim. Was mitzad der madrege, that from this level is da an ort of Metzias ha'olam. Then first there is room for an entity of the world, and then there becomes a world, and then Metzias, and then it becomes the entity. First, technically there could be, and then there is. But since the world does not have an independent entity, nor blois mitzadem obersten the Motzu Rishon, it's only existed because of the first Motzu, which is Hashem. The Rebbe is in it kemetzias amitis. That's why it's not a true entity, because it needs Hashem. Hashem is the only one that doesn't have anything before him, and therefore it's not a metzias amitis. That's the Rambam. Rashi aber is mefarish than posig with dosis b'shutu shel mikra. Rashi explains the verse as it's the simple meaning in the pasuk. We said einoid milvade means there's nothing else. Dem sipur vider eibishter hat sich bavizun zu iden. The story, the way Hashem revealed himself, Ator Reis Ladas, Kshenos Nakadosh Baruch Hu as HaTorah, when Hashem gave the Torah. Ubibald as b'shas Matan Torah is given der Gilu Ha'atzmus, since at the time of Matan Torah there was the revelation of Atzmus, the Riber Zokt Rashi. Therefore, Rashi says, "Was is Yena Shel Torah." This is Rashi is the wine of Torah. So this is Rashi is talking about the secret, the esoteric, the highest level. The Rosh Hu Yichidi. They saw that he's alone. There's nothing else. Mitzad Atzmus is Ein Shum Metzias Klal, because relative to Atzmus there could be no existence. There is no existence at all. Not even the most tradition. That's the way it is. The Pnimis Yonim in Yenu Shel Torah in Rashi. Okay, Yedua, there says in the bracket as Legabi Atzmus is the Chayich Zogum Milos Echad. Relative to Echad, you can't say even Echad. Warum Echad weist nicht auf Shlilos Metzias Oilmes. The word Echad does not point negating the existence of the world. The Achdus von Hashem Echad, when we say the unity of Hashem is one, weist as Metzias Oilmes is Muchedes mit Neibushin. It shows that the existence of the world is united with Hashem, but it's an existence. It doesn't say it's not an existence. As the Sefer Mitzvahs Katan explains the word Echad as a Zainen Do Shiverikim Baris. There are 7 heavens and the earth, was ein Merumas in them Ches von Echad, which are hinted in the Ches, the 7 and 1, und Daled Ruches Ha'olam, and the 4 corners of the world was ein Merumas in them Daled, which are hinted in the Daled. Und sie alle seinen Botlum Ucha, they're all subjugated and united to Alufay Shel Olam, to the master of the world, the Aleph von Echad, the Aleph of Echad. Und der Eufner Ardus ist verbunden mit dem Koyach Eliki Bechinas Ha'or. How is this union of the world with the Daladolum is with the Aleph? It is with the Bechinas Ha'or. That is the power of the godly power, the level of Oir. That's in the confines and the limitations, the defense of the world. That's the oil which is in the world. Rambam, and in the Rambam's language, Motsurishan. So this is all in the Shema Yisrael Shem Chod, in this level. What is together? Motsurishan. Ein kein mitzad ha'atzmus, as opposed to mitzad ha'atzmus. Sagt man nicht Rishain Echad, you don't say Rishain, you don't say Echad, nor Yochid. As hu levadi, hu v'efes ulosa, he is just alone, and there's nothing besides him. So the reason the machloek is between Rashi, the different interpretation between Rashi and the Rambam is halacha. And in halacha, there is an existence, and it's only level of Echad, and it's bottled, but mitzad, the level of Rashi, Pnimiyas HaTorah, the initial Torah. Over there is Yechidi, Einit Mavad, means there's nothing else, nothing exists. Yud Gimel. Und das is Rashi, Baramas Bishuna, Lashonis, and Albi Pirushai. Rashi hints this, the change of languages in his commentary. Pasach Lohem Shiva Rikim. First he says he opened up the 7 Rikim. Then he says, Kshem Shekores Al Yonim, Kach Kores HaTachtonim. As he has ripped apart the Elyonim, he ripped apart the Tachtonim. He explains. Pasach Lam Shiva Rikim, when he says he opened up the 7 Rikim, Weist of Gila Lakus was his in the Shiva Rikim Gufa. That points, he opened it up, meaning he's showing them, that's the Tikkun, that's showing them the Gila Lakus that's in the 7 Rikim himself, in Elamus, Elyonim. That in Elamus, Elyonim, he opened it up so they can visualize this haste. As Kshenos, Nakadosh Baruch Hu Torah, when the Abraham gave the Torah, and his geworden zu Eden, it was revealed to the Eden, nicht nur the Niedrige Kavyochel Madreges in Elokus, not just the lower steps in godliness. Asher Ba'oretz B'Rikiya Ha'alef, that's in the earth or in the first level, everything was revealed. But all levels, those revelations of godliness were revealed. Was nirmas in the Shiva Rikim, generally they're hinted when we say the 7 Rikim represents all Giluim from godliness. So when the Eibishter gave the Torah, Pesach opened up, it was revealed to them all the highest level, the 7 Rikim. But that the Elyonim, the revealed godliness, is just nor a madrege in Elokus. That's only a level in godliness, was is verbunden und hat a shaykhs to Oivigilu, that is tied and has a connection to light and revelation. That expresses itself through the upper. Ober atzmus ein sof was is hecher vayeder beginne von Oivigilu. But when we talk about the essence of the Ein Sof, which is higher than any level of light and revelation, is Kishem v'nivroim tachtoinim zainin im nit megala, just as the lower creations do not reveal it, Al that is noch mehr, similar to that and even more, is nicht shaykh as only is galven durch the Elyonim. Is not applicable for him to be revealed through the upper. I feel it nicht von der hechster beginne von oil. Not even from the highest level of oil. Wie azoi setzt sich Atzmus. So how can you see Atzmus is not by Posach, Kaviochel. So to speak, is Nikra Bitloilomus, that is ripped, meaning the negation of the words. As we said before, ripping is negation. As es herzig wie ein Shometzi's cloud, that you sense, you feel there's no existence. And this is Rashi Moshe, and this is what Rashi has. No, the minyan from Pesach Chulu, after he starts the revelation, tzad, the Gilu, tzad Motzurishin, is enough given the inyan was Atzmus hat sich bewiesen. Then came the revelation of Atzmus, and those hat sich ausgedrückt in them. That expressed itself was Kishem, Shekores al Yonim, Kach Kores atachtonim. Just as he had to rip the Elyonim, he rips also Tachtonim. Sai Elyonim, Sai Tachtonim, haben nicht gemetzias. Both the lower and the upper have no metzias. Korah, Zeir metzias. But when you rip their metzias, und durch dem Rosh Yechidi, that's the way they saw that he is alone. This is given Gilu Ha'atzmus Yochid. That was the revelation of Yochid. Yudalet. Bald. As alle Yidden Rosh Yechidi B'Shas Matan Torah. All Yidden saw this, that the Eibishter is no Matan Torah, that was revealed. His movement, those that Inyan was his Negeya to Nesinas V'Kabbalas HaTorah. So this is a matter which is important, connects to the giving and receiving the Torah. To keep my mitzvah, Torah mitzvahs from Eden to the observance of Torah mitzvah of Yid. This is a foretold from the fact. We say, always we say, whatever a Jew sees or hears is Zahiro in Zayin Avedis Hashem. It's a lesson in the service of Hashem. Is the Chalachas Kama V'Kama, how much more so? As the Inyan from Ator Isolodas Goimer. This, but the Pasuk tells us that what took place, that revelation at that time, there must be a lesson. Pasach Lohem Shiva Rikim. He opened up these 7 Rikim. Ukshem Shekores El Yonim. Kach Kores Atachtonim. There must be a lesson here. Is a heroic klolus, a general lesson, which is Negeya to the Aveda Bepoil, which is important and connects to the actual service in Kiyum HaTorah mitzvahs from Eden, the Meshach Kol HaDeidos, for the fulfillment, observance of Torah mitzvahs of Eden in the duration of all the generations. The heroic klolus, the fun was Rosh Yechid. So what's the general lesson that they saw Hashem is alone, is moving by Pashtus? That's simply understood. Uvi Moshe, and as Moshe Iber der Tzelendik, Ator Eseladat, when he related Hashem showed himself to know Einoid Milvadei, no one besides Hashem, at Oizgifir B'Seif HaParsha, he concluded in the end of the part of Shamarto as Chukov as Mitzvahs Vasher Noiche B'Tzav Chayim. So you shall keep his statutes and the mitzvahs that I command you today. What's the connection? Well, Zendik as hu Yechidi is moving, because when you see that he is alone, it's understood. As a Yid Arf Mekayim Zayin Rotzin Havaya, that a Yid needs to fulfill the will of Hashem in an oifen as his kinaf kaminanit, in such a way that it makes no difference what Zayin dimensions Rotzin is. That makes no difference what he wants. Vibaldas hu Yechidi, since the Eibishter is alone, the only that sich soif ausführen dem Eibishter's Rotzen. So in the end, the Eibishter's Rotzen is going to be fulfilled. Und azoi can kein Sach nicht abhalten, und azoi euch can kein Sach nicht abhalten a Yidden from the Kaim Zay Rotzen Hashem. Nothing can stop a Yid, since Hashem is the only one, So there's nothing that can stop a Yid from fulfilling, to observe and to fulfill the Ratzon Hashem. And to conduct oneself in all of his aspects, according to the instruction of Hashem in the Torah. There's no existence, there's no true existence by at all in the world. Something should really block, God forbid, and not to allow to do his wish. There's nothing there besides Hashem, so there's nothing to block him. It's not just this general idea that the Isur is alone, is negate, is important to fulfill Torah mitzvahs. Also, the Pratim Rashi continues. He opened up the seven skies, and as he ripped apart the upper, etc. Or from them, because seeing this Matan Torah, they took the lesson and they took the power in the two ways and levels of above. The avodah ba'ofen shel pasach, the service in the way of pasach al derech v'avodas habirurim, to the service of the birurim, as the Rebbe spoke in the beginning of the Sikha. And the avodah ba'ofen shel korah, and also the avodah in the way of korah al derech v'avodas hanisyonos. That's why, that's the preparation, and that gives them the koyach, and that's why they needed to see the pasach. So first you have the general idea that Yechidi, and therefore nothing can be in the way. But specifically, the two types of avodas that comes from the level of Korah and the level of Nisyonos and the level of Pasach, level of Birurim. Tezvav. Apikol Anal is move on based on the above. It's also understood the Negea the Gila Lakus was Verdru Chavedis Odom, the revelation of godliness that takes place through the service of man. Kishem v'imban matan Torah is durch dem was Korah Lono, given the Torah Solodas by matan Torah through Korah. Is a Solodas that brought the seeing in Atzmus Rosh Yechidi. The soul is alone. The Gilo Atzmis Ba'ifan Shalriya, revealing the Atzm in a way of seeing, was bring to Ladas, which brings to knowledge the Evakora, to recognition and knowledge and knowing. Al Derech Zeh is an Avodah Sa'odam, similarly is in the service of the person. As Davke the Avodah from Korah Sal Yonim Ba'atachtonim, but specifically this service of ripping the upper and the lower, the Avodah Shalomailo Mimdida V'Agbola, service which is beyond the measure and limitation. Avodas Hanisyonos, this service of the test, the struggles. Mitzad Bechina Yechida Shebenefesh, that is the level of Yechida of the soul that stands by. Which rips through all covers, all limitations, up and above. Bring der Gilui Bechinas Yechidi. That brings about the revelation of the level of Yechidi. The essence of it. So those bring to Ladas, level of Das, Kiminasagim Ladas, as es wird bei ihm das Vahasoga Vargosha Boy Isborach, that he gets the knowledge and the understanding and the feeling in Hashem, Bechinas Riya, seeing, the Akora Be'elukus, Kilu Roya B'riyu Chushis, recognizing godliness as if you would see it with physically or actual vision. Davke Durk der Avodah, specifically through this service, is Be'ikr Bizman HaGolus, it's mainly in the time of exile, is Manoch Mer Memayer Bis Mashiach Tzidkenu, we hasten even more the coming of righteous Mashiach, Ben Es Vetzayin, when it will be V'niglo Kved Hashem B'ro Kol Basar, God's glory will be revealed, all flesh will see. Riyas Amahus, seeing the essence. Ayin ba'ayin yiru, as the pasuk says, eye to eye, but iya chushis. Aber demult wird es nicht sein in Eifel Korah, but it won't be to rip through. Bald As then will be Izdachir Gashmis Agufa Oilom. The body and the world will be refined. But Atzmus is Galaven in Metzius Oilom Gufa. The Atzmus will be revealed in the existence of the world itself. As Amitis Metzius Ayesha Nivra, that the true existence of the created Yesh is that Yesh Amiti is the true entity, is Hashem. The Mamish, very soon are the Bibinian Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, the building of second base, third base Hamikdash, you have the Gozis Hamizbeach Eitz. So on one hand, it's going to be stones that are cut, and the Mizbeach is wood. That's Olam, Yesh, Anivra. But then Hashem's hands prepared the Beis Hamikdash, the combination of the Yesh Amiti with the Yesh Anivra. And so it's very difficult. There's a lot of difficult concept about the world that needs to be gone over again, but we'll do it for now. We'll do Mesichas, Leil Simchas Torah, Tavshin Lamates, and Leil V'Yom Simchas Torah, Tavshin Mem Gimel.